And I think it's the moment to now invite the amazing and one and only Theaster Gates to join the conversation. It's such an enormous, amazing honor that Theaster is here. Theaster, of course, one of the leading arts of our time, but also we talked a lot over the last 2 days about social sculpture, a very important aspect of Theaster's work. Theaster originally coming from urbanism. Theaster is also an architect. Please give a very, very warm welcome to Theaster Gates! Yeah.
You sit in the middle. Yeah.
It's really nice to be here with you all.
Great that you came all the way.
Thank you very much, Hans Ulrich, and thank you very much, Theaster.
Rah, 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 rah. Turn the heat down.
Now, this is mine.
So we didn't speak about your exhibition because we will go extensively into some of the works that happened or the processes that took place in Arles. And maybe it is important to say that it's a process that we started 2 years ago. And it's also a way of thinking about the idea of like extending the notion of time, of what it is to be making something, what it is to be making an exhibition. Also an exhibition which is in the same space over a period of 2 years, but changes 1 year after the other. And also thinking about elements that have come from other places. Let's say particularly in the first year of our collaboration, many elements came from your studio in Chicago, but also from the spaces and the places that you have been engaged with in Japan. Mm-hmm. But later on, we produced the infrastructure with which to actually make things possible in a context which was the context that we have together generated somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk maybe about LUMA from the artistic side instead of the institutional side.
Okay.
You know, because I think it's really important that if we're talking about like what's the future of what a museum could do, I think LUMA has really kind of aligned itself with the vision of artists, which means that LUMA may not always know itself because it's waiting for the artist to kind of add the final phase, you know? And so when I suggested, and Hans used this great, these two words, form and impact. So if I listen to LUMA, and LUMA says, you know, we're trying to create energy in Arles over time. And we don't want people to just come for the summer or come for a moment. We want them to embed, and then the initial investments that are made through what could be an exhibition. I was asking, is there a way that initial investment of a show or an exhibition or a commission, could that initial investment do more? So that if you're gonna spend money on equipment, and you're gonna spend money on drywall, could we continue to use that into the future so that the investment is singular or it happens over time, but it is actually small relative to what the artist could do if artists continue to be in Arles and in the region. And it feels like, you know, Arles has been a place that has welcomed writers and intellectuals and artists for a long time, and I want to be a part of it. And so it was like, well, I don't need an exhibition. I need a place where I can be longer, and a place where I know, like, I'm gonna come back to this place and I'm gonna do more things. So could we use the occasion of the exhibition as a way of homesteading, of providing an intellectual anchor? And I think that the Song of the Center was trying to do that. So, you know, one of the things that was obvious was that there were all these other exhibitions that were happening, and they looked like they were regular exhibitions. They were great, you know. Kentridge was to my right, Jonas to my left. It was amazing. But because those works were works on the wall, and the artist didn't have to be present, I thought it would be nice to activate that part of the campus by having bodies doing things every day, and that my exhibition would evolve, and works would evolve because me and other artists would develop a workshop, and that people should see art being made, and that Arles and the Camargue, there have been great artists making for a long time. So we decided to just make. That was the conceptual conceit.
And we made a lot.
And we made a lot.
And we went to visit you quite often.
And
other people made a lot as well. People who came from different parts of the region, ceramists, but also your people that you have worked with in the past extensively from Chicago, your studio, who also spent time there. And it's always incredible to see a new community being built around something which has a visual impact or an aesthetic or creates an aesthetic experience in the end. And when the audience is also part of this experience, and I will show you this picture here, it seems that there's no boundary or no border between the artist studio, the moment of production, and the experience of the audience. And very often I have to say, Theaster was on that table, working with the sculptures, finishing some of the parts of the sculpture, singing also to himself sometimes, which he does. And obviously, when you are, as a member of an audience, entering a space, and you see that this space is not fixed, and it's actually alive by the voice of many people in this case, because we have also many of your records, so there were many other voices, something incredible happens. There's a spark which cannot be described.
Yeah, this was quite amazing. There were the locals who came back, and then also the visitors to other exhibitions who came all the way there and were startled actually to see this thing, this unfinished thing that has such a big potential. And then we also did a kiln, Japanese kiln, following your recommendations. Outside, wooden fired. We had also a gas fired one, and everybody was investing ideas and investing discussion. And this, I thought, was really amazing what you did there as impact.
Yeah, it felt really good. Vassilis, if you could go back a couple. One of the things that felt good was that that form could also lead to impact in this way. So if I had my own question of what's the relationship between craft and I don't know, other forms of sculpture, I had a kind of artistic conceit that was important to me. And these vessels that you see in these other shapes were kind of a demonstration that you could get very quickly from a craft intention to a sculptor's intention. So I'm playing with this idea, and it plays with itself through the monolith, or through not just the vessel, but these tower-like structures that we play with. So let's call that form. But then I also knew that if we were to build this Japanese kiln, this anagama, that there were French potters in the region who were very excited about using this kind of old school technology, but they didn't always have access to it. So if we could build a community of makers who would help me fire, then in the absence of my project, they could continue to be stewards of it. So you make the investment once, the kiln could be alive for the next 15, 20 years, and it's the result of an exhibition that was actually quite ephemeral. So there is nothing at all wrong with the ephemeral exhibition. It's just that the ephemeral exhibition within the right structure could do so much more. And so it's like it is both temporary and permanent, or temporary and it remains active.
We're talking also very often about generative ideas, and this is, you begin with something, but then you constantly create the possibilities of generating continuously new forms and new projects. And this is something that has an immense impact, particularly in a region where a lot of things have been, taken from a completely different perspective. Craft, we need to kind of like constantly really reclaim those notions. In the south of France, very often these notions of craft, which are seen as traditional or as historical, they're constantly being claimed by the far right. And it's not the only way that these things should be approached or viewed from or positioned. So it's important to have some of ideas that complexify a history and a future for craftsmanship.
Yeah. Several opportunities also to get inside of a project and to get inside of things. So, but Theaster also invited a lot of friends to come and see him. And do you want to speak a little about the Black Artist Retreat?
Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was that we could also use the occasion of my exhibition to invite regional artists from Paris, from Marseille, from Portugal, folk who were around, artists of color who were interested in the question of craft and impact in this way, and to be present with the rest of the Arles community, and that together we would use, again, the occasion of the exhibition to do more. Use the occasion of the infrastructure of LUMA, the fact that there are residency spaces already there, that it's happening at the right time, that we could use all of that as, I could use this as my executive administrative team to produce what we call Black Artist Retreat, which is really just a gathering that is not quite a conference and it's not quite a family reunion. It's a big ass party where the hope is that people go away knowing each other more and feeling less alone in their artistic and intellectual practices. And so the image that you're looking at is we've opened the kiln, we've done this great wood firing, and there's some performance activity and a little bit of ritual before a very good regional wine is poured for us all, and we go into the evening.
But the interesting thing, and maybe you can say something about this. The Black Artist Retreat was a meeting that was not recorded and not public, and it allows that conversations and discussions to evolve with an element of freedom and liberty of speech, which cannot be found in moments
this
where
is important to mix both.
Other form, when some recording or images could actually transform what is happening. Yeah.
So during this retreat, French artists would share, if they were to make a grant to the French state saying that we, the Somali community, would like to have a Somali-only project, that grant, that application would be rejected because it was too specific to a group, and that the resources for convening would be impossible. And I think today, given the political state of the United States, I think if I were to make an application to the United States, to the National Endowment of the Arts or something, it might be rejected. But there was something quite beautiful about the fact that these artists had an opportunity to convene with permission, and that convening could then produce, for LUMA, new friendships, future artists that might be involved, conversations that maybe wanted to express conversations that needed to happen, and they could happen there. So I think that in that sense, it was a kind of platform for creativity. And in my case, if there was any intervention, it would be for the resources that are spent for an exhibition. Are there other modalities for which activity could happen at the site, in the gallery? And maybe sometimes the convening could be the exhibition. And so and so. And in a space where you have 25,000 square meters, maybe there are other ways to overtake those spaces, including exhibition, but maybe not limited to. The last thing I wanted to mention goes back to the archive. That Maya, like you and Hans, I have a lot of stuff now. I mean, everybody in this room probably has a lot of stuff, but I don't only have my stuff. I got other people's stuff. You know, I've been taking everybody else's stuff. I mean, if this is, I'm trying not to curse because I got so much shit, you know, and so I'm also, you know, so in the context of the city, LUMA and Maja, there are these interventions that are happening so that places that had been abandoned, former monasteries, former nunneries, historical buildings that cannot be afforded, that the archdiocese cannot afford to restore, that these are buildings that become amazing sites where things might happen, but the resources haven't been there. And so I think that in a way, aggregating other people's important things is the first step toward the development of advanced culture in a place. And then you need the things, and then you need a place to house the things, and then you need a sophisticated team that could help a public understand why these, in some cases, my things are very everyday things. They're not, it's not the most important Picasso. It's the fact that there was a black man on the South Side at the same time as Picasso, also making great paintings that were in the tradition.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why you call it, you speak about archive and not about collection.
Yeah. So I feel really grateful because in some ways, the LUMA project, for me, it is an advance on what a kind of public generosity could look like when a private person doesn't have to offer themselves and expose themselves so fully that there is this moment where we actually need the private community to be willing to make public positions that are sophisticated positions so that cultures could happen. So where I probably have my own critique of the private museum, what's beautiful about the private museum in this moment is that it continues to advance the possibility of culture for a public, given the fact that maybe governments won't make culture available in the same ways that they have in the past. So I hope that private things eventually become public things. Okay.
And it allows us to not lose also a lot of information, knowledge, and valuable collections. And I wanted to ask you one thing, because the archives, the stuff that you say that you have, you also discovered something that for us was completely unknown in Arles, and it was through your social engagement, a very important music collection of Afro-Caribbean music that was in reality right next to the LUMA site. And it was held by the widow of someone who developed it, and you discovered about 50,000 vinyl records of.
We didn't know about it, but it took Theaster
2 days
to find out and to find the collection.
Is Alvaro's up there? Yeah. Okay, so what often happens in my exhibitions, and I've fallen in love with making exhibitions again, because I realize that there's the exhibition, but there's all the fallout that happens as a result. So I show up in LUMA with some soul music, some Donny Hathaway, some Roberta Flack, some Spinners, some varying moments of great black music. We started playing this music. Maya's collaborator from La Chansonnette says, "Oh, you like black music? There's a collection. This gentleman who was Vietnamese and French Vietnamese, he had passed unexpectedly, and the French state was charging an estate tax for the collection, and so the family had to deal with this. Danielle and Millie and the crew, and when people saw the collection, it was such a big album collection that people would want to just pick individual moments. But I asked the family if I could care for the archive, that we would digitize the archive, we would play it, and that we would ultimately honor Dean Nguyen in Chicago and Arles, And we ultimately brought his daughter to Chicago. She helped to categorize all of the albums. But I think that in that way, it's not enough to say that I've been working with found objects. That was wrong. That was wrong language 15 years ago. But it's the spiritual life in these things, and the fact that they kind of need someone to keep charging them in order for them to manifest the power that's in them. And so when I saw this collection, I just thought, wow. And it's music from the Caribbean, and specifically the Mauritius and Reunion. And in some cases, it was so locally produced that there's not very many, they're on 45s, the 7-inch. And so it's just beautiful music. And then once we've gotten into the collection, we found that actually Dean was invested in all world music. So there's rabbinical cantors and traditional African music, and I just feel really, really fortunate to have it, and to be in a place where, like Arles, where your presence can be announced so quickly that it creates new friendships very quickly. Yeah, and I'm going to descend so that we can elevate.
Elevation, yeah. No, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Theaster.
The thing.